Welcome back to the Masters of Recon podcast, your top automotive refinishing podcast with your hosts, Corey Kleinfeld
and Ryan Brewer. Enjoy the show, everyone.
Welcome back to the Masters of Recon podcast. Today on the podcast, we have Matt Finney. He is from south of St. Louis in a city called Herculaneum, or if you're from around the area, apparently you call it Herky. He started paintless dent repair on February 27th. Exactly, 2008, trained just by a local tech who didn't train anybody before him or after him, essentially. So just somebody local, and now he has added Restore FX to his suite of services. And just before I started this podcast, he sent me a video of a repair that he did, and I'm going to ask him live to put pressure on him. He's never shared it on social media. Can I share it? And welcome to the show.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Look out, Bryce Kelly.
No, he can carry that torch gladly.
Yeah,
and he does well at it. So.
He does very well for sure. So welcome to the show, man. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, appreciate it.
I'm glad you do share some videos, because the reason you're on the podcast is because you shared. I'm going to jump around apparently, but you shared a video you did of Restore FX on a Cadillac. And I was like, this is ridiculous. And I shared it with Ryan. I was like, you got to come on the show and talk about this stuff. And then you pull out, I'm a master PDR tech too. So like, and you don't have any employees. So I don't even know where to start, Ryan. Do you know where to start? I don't know. Just tell me all the things.
So, yeah, I don't know if it's smart to not have any employees, but,
but you don't.
That's where we're at the moment.
Yeah.
But like I had said before we started recording, I'm definitely pretty consistently at that point where I need to do that. Full disclosure, it's not something I'm super excited about, because anybody that has employees, you hear the nightmares more often than you do the great stories. Mm-hmm. But there's great people out there. There's people that want to be a part of what we're doing in this industry, and it's just a matter of finding them.
Yeah, well, no one ever talks about stuff when it's going really great. Mm-hmm. You only hear about the divorce and the suing and the disgruntled employee or whatever. Right. No one's sitting there talking about, I have great employees. I think Ryan has great employees. There's a lot of guys out there. So I would say the majority of America is an employee. And it works just fine. But so we're going to start. How did you, 2008 comes around, how did you even find out about paintless dent repair, first of all, and get into it? That's always a fun place to start for everybody.
Yeah. So in 2008, I went through all the big firsts in life. I got married. We had our first son, bought our first house. I was a union sheet metal worker here in St. Louis. I was still an apprentice at the time. I was pretty close to getting out of my time and becoming a journeyman. I always knew I wanted to work for myself. And my middle brother had a friend that I never knew what he did for a living. My brother would just refer to it as he does dents. I didn't know what the hell that meant.
Still to this day, people. Right?
Yeah. Oh, but what I did know is, at the time, the HD, the Harley Davidson F-250s and stuff were hot with the flames on the side, and so he had the new F-250 that was lifted, wheels, tires. He lived in a giant house on a private golf course. His wife drove an Escalade. Like, he had all the stereotypical dent guy stuff, right? And so I didn't know what doing dents was. However, I knew that whatever he was doing, I wanted to do it. So, sidebar on that.
That's awesome.
Now, I would never suggest anybody do anything career-wise solely based on money, because that is a fleeting thing.
Yeah.
However, fast forward, I'm glad I did it. My wife's glad I did it. However, I got my journeyman's card in the union and withdrew the exact same day, and started pushing dents. Now, I was doing it in the evenings because my wife, who is an RN, but I was doing it in the evenings, so she was working nights. So when we put the little one to bed, I was in the basement on the old like X style hood stand, like there was just an X that opens up. I was on a hood off an S10, beating it up, thinking, oh dude, you're nailing this dent repair thing, and just looked like hell, right? But did that for a few months, and then February 27th, we hit the road to go to Mannheim, Pennsylvania, and my first tail car We were there for Wizard, as subs in a tent with literally 100 other dudes. And my first hail car, they put me on, just like here, peck away, was a 7 Series BMW. I broke a side glass and I broke the windshield or the sunroof glass on that car. It took me about a week and a half. I thought it looked great. It probably looked like total hell. But that's where my career started.
Damn. So a sheet metal worker, that's interesting.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
Commercial heating and cooling. Yeah. So I've got a background, and my original deal was, okay, I'm going to work for myself. I thought it was going to be in I'm still in the metal world, but, doing some custom metal work, at the time I had a fair bit of fabrication experience, commercial installs. I had a lot of welding certifications. I liked that kind of, metal work. I'm still doing metal work. It's just a different kind.
Dude, and probably the most artistic, the most skilled version, I would say. I mean, welding takes a skill for sure, but
it does.
Not like this.
I mean, I'm not slow to tell people that PDR is nothing short of an art for sure, 100%.
Yeah. Especially after that video you sent.
Did you chase hail for a while, or how does that work?
So I'm over 15 years. I'm not quite to 16. February will be 16. So I'm pretty deep into my 15th year as a tech. Predominantly, most of that time was on the road on the hail trail. Now St. Louis at the time, so we moved away and moved down to Florida for a little bit, but we had a pretty good run. I wouldn't call St. Louis necessarily a hail-prone market. When I think of hail-prone, I think of Colorado, Oklahoma, parts of Kansas, Texas, right? Yeah. However, from 11 to 17, St. Louis got a lot of hail. 11 and 12 and 15 in particular were great or horrible, whatever side of the fence you're on there. So that kept me home.
Great for dead guys, horrible for everyone else, you mean? Is
exactly.
that okay?
Yeah. So, so the guy that trained me, he went from the guy that trained me pretty quickly to a business partner. So we had a dent company together. We also opened a collision center together. So right about that time, like I said, he was 15 years into his dent career, and he wanted the next step for him, which was he had a love for collision centers and he wanted to own one. I didn't. I was up and coming in the dent world, and I wanted to be a dent guy. So over time, we started the collision center together and then parted ways under good terms. Now, it worked out great for him. He just recently sold to Caliber the end of last year. So,
nice.
It worked out great for him. We still talk to this day. Good dude, amazing tech. He asks if I need a parts guy from time to time, but, so.
That's awesome. Very cool. Yeah, good for him. That's good. That's good place to sell to. Makes it easy.
Sure. Yeah.
So you have had employees before.
Well, yes,
partners.
Technically I have.
Well, no, he owned a body shop. So
true. That's true.
I have.
True.
We had,
so firsthand experience of employees.
Yeah, so we had 5 guys then.
Yep.
Now it grew once I left, and he built another facility. It grew, obviously. But yeah, I mean, when I was there, we had 5 directly. And then 11 and 12 when it hailed here, we had up to 20 guys in a warehouse, all independent techs, but we had 20 guys at one point just banging them out. So, good times for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Damn. So so that's the hail trail. I feel like I've never chased hail. I went to one store one time just to see. Probably won't go back. Do all hail guys move to Florida when they're done pushing hail? What is that?
Man, like I said earlier, I'm from there. I'm from Orlando, born and raised.
From Orlando. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
So that was easy for you.
That's how I ended up there. And I've got family in St. Louis and in Florida. So, as a dent guy, for me, as you guys know, we can live anywhere if you're doing hail, right?
Yeah.
So we went back to Orlando for a few years.
Yeah.
It was great, but ultimately we missed a lot of family up here. We miss family down there too. But, for our lifestyle and where we were trying to go, it fit better to be back here.
For sure.
Nice.
So you sent us a smash repair on a Camaro quarter panel, and I feel like Hail and Smash PDR are separate skill sets in my opinion. I've done some
I would
Hail,
even
more
say
Smash.
Dordings are separate.
Oh, yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, three separate
Yeah.
areas of expertise. So were you doing some Smash repair during Hail, like on off season, or where did you pick up this like that? Because that, I mean,
'Cause most people can't do both, right? Most
No.
people are like a hail tech or a smash tech. If you try to do both, it like for
Or
me,
I mean,
it sucks.
we have to define smash too. Like I don't know that the one you said is like smash, like double smash, at least. There was two spots,
You
but
just
I'm
need
gonna
to call
share
it
video.
Bryce Kelly smash.
I'm gonna share the video if Matt will let me. And so when did you transition, or when did you start fixing side panels like that?
So I think a little bit came from the perspective of the guy that trained me. So he said early on, I remember him saying, I'm not going to train you to be a hail guy or a door dinger. I'm going to train you to be a dent guy. So I think that was one. And then two was I like to excel. I'm not like one of those overachiever guys, and I don't do things for the accolades. However, I like to be proficient and skilled at whatever it is I do.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm very hard-headed and persistent. So, I think, so on the off season, in a town like this, I had relationships at the local dealerships and collision centers that, when guys knew I was home, if they needed something, they'd call.
Yeah.
So I had a big Chevy store that has, well, prior to COVID, they would have 1,000 units on the lot, new and used. And I did all of their dents. So it was just a revolving door for me. If I was home, I was there. If I was on the road, they were waiting. So at their collision center, it just kind of transitioned over time to, okay, we know you can do hail. Can you fix this door, or can you fix this fender? And it turned into one of those, well, I don't know, but I'm going to try.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of progressed. So, I don't know if I'm an outlier in any way, shape, or form. Like I told you earlier, I'm just a dumb dent guy pushing dents, but I seem to have some kind of knack for fixing damage, whether it be a door ding, hail, and or larger what I deem as micro collision. In my business, that's what I call it.
Mm-hmm.
So
interesting. Yeah, well, you're pretty good based off the video.
Well, thank you.
To be fair, I know a lot of dent guys. I feel like I've looked at a lot of videos. I've coached a lot of people. I've talked to a lot of people and all that stuff. And yeah, you do have let's say you have a knack for it. I think that's a nice way to put it. A knack for it. But yeah, that's awesome. Do you think being a journeyman or like just, do you think your sheet metal work helped you at all? Like the thinking about dent repair, or?
I think it probably plays a part subconsciously. I mean, I don't think of anything in particular when I'm doing any kind of repair that like, oh yeah, I remember. However, I think understanding metal, I also went 2 years into my mechanical engineering degree. So the metallurgy classes and things like that.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
kind
So
of
that's
understanding
big. And welding plus the fabricating. And
right.
Like,
yeah. So I think all those components together probably play a little bit into my understanding and, kind of dealing with that a bit. So,
yeah, that's fascinating though. So tension is a big thing now. Is that something you used before it was a big thing?
Not necessarily. No.
Okay. All right. I'm just curious if you had like an edge up because of the schooling,
No, I actually never really thought about it a whole lot.
Okay.
And I don't even remember where I first saw it.
Yeah.
Obviously now you can't see anything of size being repaired without it.
Right. Yep. But that's like the last year though, really, realistically.
Absolutely.
Year and a half, maybe,
Yep.
So that's fascinating. Okay. So you were just fixing that stuff, just old school. You pushed it out.
Yeah. So the Camaro, the only piece of like, I'll be real honest, the Camaro, the whole tension thing was coming into play back then. but I didn't really understand it much.
Yeah,
There weren't these bridges and towers and all this stuff.
Even
right?
straps or nothing. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
I actually would have, on that, there were actually kind of caveman style ratchet straps. And, I would glue big collision tabs from Kiko, right? And try and pull just as a caveman style. But yeah, I mean, I think technically the only what I would call abnormal or specialty tool that was used on that was the hot box. And I'll say right now, if it was not for a hot box, there's no saving that for sure. But that took all facets of anything I knew about metal and dent repair to get to the finish line. I mean, that one was, like I said earlier, that was for sure my peak.
Yeah. So if you want to see the video, just can I post it, Matt, later down the road? This is
we
going to
posted in the Masters of Recon.
Yeah, so
for sure.
Go to the Masters of Recon while you're there, like the page, obviously. But that way you can see what we're talking about. This not a made up dent before and after video of this thing is. Do you want to tell the story of how you kind of got that repair? Because I think it's a pretty fascinating story on that.
So an oral surgeon from Tampa, Florida went, I guess I'll describe the car. It's I don't recall what year, but it's a ZL1 Callaway Edition Camaro. And that's his race car. He's a car guy. He's got multiple exotics and high-end stuff. And this was his fun car. He lost control at Sebring Raceway, hit the tire barrier, and wiped out the hood. Driver's fender. He got into the door, and as you can see, the quarter panel. So we saved the door and the quarter. And we is another tech that, like I told you guys prior, the physical exhaustion that comes from a repair like that.
And mental, because it's so daunting. You look at that and you're like, it's daunting.
100%.
Yeah.
So
there's a million pushes on that back of that metal.
Yes. Yeah. So it was a tag team between a friend of mine and myself, and still to this day, I am pretty amazed at it. Again, is it the extent of what can be repaired? I don't think so at all. I mean, to be quite honest,
which is
some
wild
of the stuff
to think
Bryce
about.
does, that recent Rivian repair, and I think it was Matt Boyette did that, I believe.
Yeah.
And then
the one that kind of went viral a little bit.
Yeah. And then the guild, I don't know how to say it.
I think it's Guidus. I think. Don't quote me. I'm sorry if anybody knows it, but I think Guidus or Guidus or Arlson. I'm thinking off the top of my head, something like that. Yeah.
I don't know that guy, and in my mind, I picture him as like an old wizard type guy.
Yeah, right.
The stuff that he does.
He's not old.
He's
not old.
Just absolutely insane. When I see stuff that Bryce does, I'm blown away. When I see the stuff that he does, I'm like, this has got to be Photoshop, because it blows my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And like you said, torch carriers. I've called Bryce a torch carrier for forever. I used to post on all of his posts a picture of a Statue of Liberty. Instead of just typing it out, just post that, because and not only him, but Guidus and Boyette, and there's a lot of other guys. Gene Fetty's doing stuff with blue polling. I mean, Mike Toledo out in San Diego. There's guys. Maybe I've put a video out there once or twice that's difficult, but there's a lot of guys out there that the body of work, if you're paying attention, just knowing what's possible by watching the videos is how everything has changed. 100%.
Yeah.
A lot of it from Bryce Kelly, but a lot of it from other guys too. Knowing it's possible is half the battle, more than half the battle. Like the story, it's a famous story of the Roger Bannister 4-minute mile. You guys know that story or not?
I don't.
So Roger Bannister's a 4-minute mile for the longest time, decades and decades and decades. Everybody's running. It's not humanly possible ever for someone to run under a 4-minute mile. It's not possible. No one's ever going to do it. That's the peak of whatever. And then, so years people are trying. They're running official races trying to run under a 4-minute mile, and eventually Roger Bannister does it. And within the year, 12 more people.
Wow.
Or some number. I don't know those numbers
crazy.
After that. I know it's a 4-minute mile. He finished it, and then some number of people within a short period of time all run under a 4-minute mile. Why?
Damn.
Because they knew it was possible. Because it was possible. That's it. So seeing all these videos and paying attention A little bit. Not, you don't spend your life. Pay attention to YouTube, pay attention to Facebook,
Right.
some Instagram posts, wherever you get your stuff from, and just like see what they're doing and then apply that to your skills. Like if you could make a 3-inch dent that's on a body line with a crown flat, like technically you could fix the quarter panel eventually. Right. I guess kind of. I mean,
Yep.
not, it doesn't perfectly translate, but you can move metal around. So
Yeah, for
if
sure.
you put 200 hours on it or 100 hours, could you do it? I don't know.
Yep. And that, I mean, what you're saying kind of makes sense as to why we're seeing,
Just the leaps. It's
yeah.
just like
Yep.
every time I see a new video, I'm like, this is stupid.
Yep.
What are we doing?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh man,
It's wild. And I guess that a lot can be said and a hand can be given to companies like Kiko and Cam Auto and
yeah,
the
tooling companies, all the tooling companies.
Yeah,
in addition,
I mean,
100%. Yeah,
it's insane. People come to the shop all the time and they still have the mindset that dent repair is hail and door dings, and you just use kind of some basic sticks and screwdrivers. And when you start talking to them about things like a hot box where you're introducing carbon on a molecular level, and they're like, dude, what? I thought you just used glue and a stick, and it pops out. Like, there's just the technology in our industry, even though at its core are those sticks and screwdrivers, the technology that has come to be here in the last few years is really incredible. And that's what lets us do what we do.
100%. Yeah, it's everybody. It's the tooling. It's the seeing what's possible. It's the education of tension and basically, Kiko making double action a thing, or of like a common thing, pulling while tapping a crown down, and you can literally see it flow together. It's like, oh, like duh. All that stuff. And this is how industries grow, and I guess you could say preaching it. I've been talking about it since April of 2020, the month after COVID started. I got on this podcast and been talking about since day one, like, pay attention. Like, this industry is like this big compared to where it's going to be. Like,
absolutely.
So we have so much more room to go. It's not even like none of us can even fathom it. Hail, as there's still a massive amount of hail that goes to a body shop that doesn't need to, in my opinion, most likely. But on the collision side, dude, we're so far away.
Yeah,
we have so much more room to go.
I still have people. In fact, I had a guy this afternoon that he went to a body shop, new Bronco, shopping cart hit the side, passenger quarter panel. He went to a body shop. The body shop told him, we can't get to you for at least 6 months. We're not even going to walk out there and look at it. So he came here, and I'm like, well, I guess it's good you end up here, but we should have been your first stop, because this doesn't need to go to a collision center. So it's that education part too, because like I said, most people don't even realize the options they have.
Yeah, for sure. You're muted, Ryan. Did you know that?
Yeah, because I got people talking. Customers.
Okay, cool. Yes, I just wasn't sure if you were trying to say something. Customers, god dang.
So Restore FX, man. How did you hear about it, and when did you start?
So actually, to be quite honest, both of you are guilty for getting me into that, because I heard about it on Corey's prior podcast with you as the guest. So we were actually packing. I remember this fairly well. We were packing. We had just sold our house in Orlando. We were moving back to St. Louis, and I was packing the moving truck, and I was, I had my earbuds in and was listening to this podcast, because I knew at that point when we moved back, I had told my wife, and we had already decided, I'm going to get off the road. 15 years of doing this, you guys know how much you miss with your family and your kids. You can't get that stuff back. So, that was enough. I'm going to hang up, the Hail Trail work shoes, and I'm going to stay local, and we're going to open a shop. I was, very intentional about what I wanted to do. I had a basic plan. The one thing I didn't have, in high school, my very first business I ever owned, as probably a lot of guys do, was a detail business.
Detail company, yeah.
Yep. And what I knew about, okay, I'm going to come back to St. Louis, I'm going to open a shop, and we're going to offer these multiple services. One thing I couldn't figure out at that point was, I know that I can't tell somebody on the front end, you need to come to us to repair your dents because we save the OEM finish. There's no Carfax report. It's quicker. It's better for the overall integrity of the vehicle. And on the back side of that, try and sell them a traditional paint correction where we come in and just mow that clear coat down. And Ryan, I heard you say, I think it was something about if you looked at PDR as, you know, the husband or whatever, you had tried to find the wife for PDR for a long time, and you felt like Restore FX was it. So I listened to that episode, and I spent like the next 3 days trying to figure out what the hell Restore FX is.
Yeah, right.
I found out a little bit about it. I kept trying to binge listen to anything I could, and then realized that you know, we all have some mutual friends. So Keith Hebert, Paul Corden.
Love Keith. Keith is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm Chuck Robertson. I think Chuck shops in Centennial, right? So I found out Chuck got into it. That led me to Keith. So I started making some calls. Keith, you know, got me in touch with Paul. So I'm thinking, okay, well, I don't know this Ryan guy, but I like what he's doing and where he's going here. It's very similar to where I'm wanting to end up. Chuck got into it. Keith is a part of this whole deal somehow. Paul got into it. Like, these are all guys that I respect a ton in our industry for multiple reasons. If they're doing this, there's something to it. So I had some conversations, and, you know, moving back up here, starting from zero, you know, I did 2 storms when we first moved back. I went to 2 storms, both in Minnesota. I did not trust my gut on either of them. I shouldn't have gone. In 15 years, it was the worst experience I've ever had doing hail. And that was it. You know, like, I left I didn't even know if I was getting paid. I worked over 6 months, literally didn't know if I was getting a penny. So came back, started from zero out of the back of my Jeep, doing mobile dent repair, and you know, talking to Tony at Restore FX at that time, because I knew that was going to be an important part of what I was trying to do. So it was just, dude, it's daunting to stroke that $20,000+ check, right, for your license, much less all the ancillary things that go into a center.
Being the big one.
Yeah, the big one, right? And I'm sure you guys can attest, more than likely, you know, wives and women in general, they're big on security, and mine is not, you know, any different. So it's like staring down the barrel of the gun, almost. Like, this is new, it's expensive, it's relative, right? Expensive compared to what? But it's expensive, you know.
It's expensive comparing to starting a dent company, which you buy $5,000 in tools, and you already have a car, and you're just like, I'm a dent guy.
Exactly.
It's not, and as far as starting a business goes, it's really not expensive.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, it's very relative. But coming back and starting from zero with that, like, right in my face, you know, it was just a little daunting, but we did it. I signed up. I got my license early February. We moved into the shop right at the same time. I went to training the end of March, and I came back at the end of March and kind of hit the ground running.
This is 21?
This is this year. I haven't even been doing this. Okay. Yeah, I haven't even been doing this a year yet.
Gotcha.
So hit the ground running. But I'll be real honest, I did not give Restore FX its due effort in terms of beating the streets. And this is where that one-man show comes into play.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So Ryan, I called Ryan in 2020, into 2020, and said, "Hey, I found you through I think I talked to Paul Corden or somebody else, and then said, call Ryan." He's like, "Yeah, you can do Restore FX. Here's the good things. Here's how much it costs to build the center out. Just promise me, just don't do it. Do not do it unless you hire somebody to do it with you." And then you knew that, but you didn't do it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said prior to starting the recording here, I told Alex
Yeah.
at training that, I hear you guys say that all the time, but I'm going to kind of flip that on its head for a minute, and I'm going to be the one that does it by itself. And I said there's reason for it. The reason was, I'm trying to be wise about how I'm building this. I'm very intentional about how I'm building my company, and I'm not willing to waver on what I see as the right way to do it.
Fair enough.
The way I price our services, again, it's one of those relative things. Some people are going to see it as expensive. Some people are going to see it as a great value. And there's that saying that price is what you pay and value is what you get. And, so there's structure in pricing of good, better, best, right? And there's good pricing, which is generally the cheaper price point of a service in a given area. And then there's up to the best. And I like the best price point, not solely based on financial outcome, but the people that are paying in the best price category aren't as largely affected by financial downturns and economic things,
Yes,
right?
100%.
So if you're doing a service that, is $850 that the guy down the street's charging $300 for, but you're marketing it to a certain clientele that's in that best category, they'll gladly pay you your price because they're not looking for the cheap guy. And they see the value in what you do. Not to mention that if you're the cheap guy, and there's nothing wrong with that, absolutely not at all. So I want to make that clear. However, if you're the cheap guy, quote unquote, it's hard to build brand or excitement around that because your customers are there solely based on price. So the moment somebody else comes in $1 under you and they're only there for price, now they're gone to the next guy. Whereas if you build that brand recognition and following and excitement and value around what you're doing, even at the best price point, those are your customers for life. So I have people come to me. I had a customer call me the other day for a tempered glass for his fireplace doors because one broke. Now this is a current customer that I've done work for, but he called me because he knew I know Matt knows what he's doing and he knows people like him. So where is he going to send me? And honestly, I didn't know where to send him, but I found out where to send him and I figured it out and solved his problem. But that I think is an important thing to keep in mind as you're building a company because you need that loyal base of customers that know that above all else, this is my guy for everything.
100%. Hopefully car related, but
yeah,
or fireplaces, I guess, as well. Tempered glass, but tempered glass and cars, so it's probably the same. It's probably the same guy.
Yep.
Safe Light. Is that who you called?
Right.
So the reason why you're actually with the Restore FX side, the reason why you're on the podcast essentially is because you sent me out of the blue. I think we had chatted a little bit, a couple messages over the years.
Yeah.
I think.
Yep.
I don't remember.
Yeah,
we did. Yeah, small talk. You sent me a video like, hey, check out this Restore FX, this car that I did. Why did you do that? I was just curious.
So I'd have to go back and look at the last guest you had on the podcast. I can't recall his name offhand.
Yeah.
But
last
anyways,
one just had, or it doesn't matter.
Yes. Yeah. Anyways, there was something said, and I don't recall exactly what it was now, but there was something said in that podcast. And I think maybe it was something along the lines of, I think his overall viewpoint, and correct me if I'm messing this up, but I think his overall viewpoint was the Restore FX has a application on the retail side, but he kind of saw it as it flexes its muscles most in the wholesale world.
Is that Jeremy Kendall? You think?
Yeah, maybe it was.
Yeah,
maybe so.
I think that was our last one.
My business is about 70-30 retail to wholesale. And almost, I think I've got 3 wholesale Restore FX cars that I've done up to this point. Most of my Restore FX work has been retail, including that Cadillac. So, I sent that based on that comment, and hey, while we're in the dent world, and it, like you had alluded to earlier, we're all trying to find that end point of what's possible. By the way, we're all kind of fairly new in this Restore FX game. Here's at this point for me, my worst that I've done, and it looked really, really good.
It did look really good.
I mean, it's 61-year-old paint, for crying out loud. Single stage lacquer. Like, yeah. I don't know what else you're going to do outside of a paint job.
Literally nothing. You're not going to paint correct it.
No, you're not.
You could maybe run it over with a buffer, try to maybe a polisher. Try to shine it up a little bit, but that's about it. You're not going to do anything else. 1962 Cadillac Coupe de Ville, all original, sat in the barn for 30 years. This is what you texted me. And we actually had no prior conversation before that. You just texted me randomly and just sent these two videos and put trying to find the limitations of Restore FX. And I'm like, who's this guy? And so I'll look at it and I'm just like, okay, that's And I think you're trying to find the limitations of PDR too, based off the Camaro. I'll share both of these too on the Master Recon Facebook page. But
all right, sounds good.
Yeah. So, tell us. Okay, so that was crazy repair. Trying to find limits. How did you get that car? Because I like that story.
So there's a dealer. He owns 6 stores around me. And we know each other loosely. Anyways, a mutual friend gave him my name and number and said, look, you got to call this guy about your Cadillac. So the owner of these dealerships won this Cadillac playing blackjack.
Yeah, that's the best part.
So he brings the car, sets it in one of his buildings, and he's like, I don't know what to do with it. So he didn't want to paint it. Although he has a body shop, he didn't want to paint the car. He wanted to keep the story and the originality. So he calls one day and says, hey, if you got time, I need you to run down to one of my Chrysler store and meet me. I need to talk. I hear you've got some magic stuff that makes cars look new without painting them. I said, okay, well, I'll come down. So anyways, we talk a bit, and that's when he realizes, okay, you don't just do dents and this stuff you wipe on a car, but you do various services that I can use all of them. So I'm going to give you this Cadillac because it's an absolute train wreck, and we're going to see what you can do with that. So that was actually the first car he had ever sent me, and he wanted full interior detail under the hood and Restore FX. There were mice, literally mice living in the trunk. It looked like they went to a mud run when you open the hood. It was just a mess. So anyways, that's how I got that car. Before I ever even touched it, I pulled it in the shop. The very next day, he sends me a 19 Ram 2500 that was an inventory car of his. And he said, do this one first. That truck looked like somebody drove it through the woods for a couple of years. It was just nowhere near what the 4Runner was you did, right?
Yeah, but like that, yeah.
But it was like the little brother of the damage of that one, right? Severe, nonetheless.
Yeah.
And so that Ram was actually the first real Restore FX car I did for him. And he's like, dude, I don't know what to say because I don't know what I'm looking at here. It's unbelievable.
And that comes from a paint shop.
That's right. And actually,
doesn't want to paint his car. What's that?
Yep. I've got 2 of those because the very first retail car I did for Restore FX when I got back was a 03 regular cab short bed Silverado that was owned by a local body shop owner. Same deal. I've known him for a long time. I've done dent work for him for years. But he said, okay, you've been telling me about this magic potion. I want to see what it does. Yeah. And dude, I'll send you this video too. The truck was destroyed. Yeah. And the after, he's like, if I didn't know you, I would think you painted this truck.
I would say you're full of shit. Yeah, he'd paint meter every panel.
Yep,
for sure. Damn, that's wild. You can unmute, Ryan. Last time you unmuted, we barely hear those people.
Yeah, it's all good.
Okay. I can't even hear him actually at all.
I
So that's pretty wild. So yeah, never a fun situation to be like, hey, I got this demo for you, and you roll up and you're just like, really? This is the demo for the guy who wants 6 dealerships done? But the funny thing is, I didn't even know this. You said yes to it. I'll do it. And before, just by you saying yes, you got other work. You didn't even touch it yet.
Yep. And I said yes, not knowing if we could even do anything.
Right. Because like I said,
yeah. So all I had heard up to that point was base clear only. So I said yes to the guy, right, that owns 6 dealers. On the way back to the shop, I'm calling Ryan K. Like, please tell me.
Ryan K is like he's like the center manager for all the center managers, basically. He is the guy you call for those type of problems, basically, at Restore FX, for those that don't know.
Yeah. And he's a great go-to for really all things Restore FX.
Yep.
But I mean, he's
been
doing it. And
if you've listened to those podcasts,
sales, right?
If you listen to the podcast we've done with Ryan, awesome.
Yep. I mean, honestly, I haven't met anybody, and this isn't I'm not just saying this because I'm a center owner and we're part of that family. However, I have yet to come across anybody in the Restore FX world, that's not a great person and has something that, they can contribute to what you're doing. So,
100%.
But yeah, said yes to the guy without knowing if we could honestly do anything. And, I got couple cans of advanced repair and went to town.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. So how long did that take?
Well, it's a little convoluted because it was kind of a gap filler car.
Yeah.
But, and I'll be real honest, I went after that car pretty significantly with the prep process. Way more aggressively than I would have anything else. But I did so knowing that the guy's one wish was just don't make it worse. So, I went after it very aggressively, knowing that, I wouldn't go past the color, but knowing that I only had the color to deal with, I didn't know how deep in the weeds I could get.
Yeah.
But I will say, for what it was, I mean, the video is true. I didn't see anything afterwards that wouldn't show up in the video. But the advanced repair product from Restore FX is great as well.
It's
I mean, that was the first. Yeah.
Did you do one coat on it? Just one?
I did, and that would be the one thing. So he actually thinks, and I haven't talked to him here recently to find out, but he thought he had the car actually sold. So he was like, hey, man, I know I told you to, just fit this in, but I got somebody wanting to look at it. So, yes, I did one coat. I think if I could go back, the one thing I would do as a follow-up is after the full cure, I think I would hit it with 5,000 and do a second install on it.
Yeah.
Because I think it would have made it fantastic.
Well, like when I was at training for Restore FX, Riley, they had this old Volkswagen. I think it's on their Instagram somewhere. You can find it. But this thing was just as bad as that Cadillac was, but it was red. And I'm like, how long has this car been here? And they're like, yeah, it's been here for like 3 or 4 weeks. And I think it stayed there for a couple more months after I left. But they said they would put a layer on every couple of days, dude. And after I don't know how many layers. I'd have to ask Riley how many layers they put, but I'd have to guess like 10 maybe. And this thing came out phenomenal. You could see it in the photos.
Really?
And yeah, so it's possible. That's what I love about the product is that you can stack it as much as it'll let you. As far as you got to make sure it's cured in between, installs. But I mean, dude, you could. I don't think we've hit the limit yet on how many layers you can actually put of this stuff on there.
Well, I don't know if there's a limit.
I know, right?
That's pretty fast. So what were they doing on that one? It was just beat, or was it oxidized, or was it just just old shit?
Same thing. It was like an old car. Customer really didn't want to pay to have it painted, so he was like, "Look, y'all can keep it for as long as you need it. It's a project. He understood it. I don't know what the guy paid for it, honestly, but I'm like, man, this thing came out phenomenal, dude. It had a little bit of rust on it, but it came out great. So it's awesome that we're trying to push the limits with the product still.
100%.
Yeah, and I don't ever want Alex to be like, dude, that's not what this is designed for. That's kind of a bad look. You know?
Yeah.
However, I think if you're gonna, this is my own opinion.
Look.
If you're gonna get involved with a bunch of dent guys,
yeah, you better.
They're gonna push the limits.
I told Alex.
We've talked about this. We've met with mostly Nick and Alex back in MTE days, and it's like you're. Okay. This is you're opening. This is a unique type of people. Okay, that you want to market to. We are those people, and so that's kind of why we're doing the podcast this way, because this is the way to do it. For the you can advertise to them, market to them, all that type of stuff. It's not how it works. You gotta So we're a unique type of people, in my opinion, for sure.
If you could get us on the train, then it's you have something, because we'll call bullshit on anything that comes across. Any dent guy. I don't care if you're a good dent guy or a shitty dent guy. If you see bullshit,
you're personality. It's personality.
Well, and Jeremy on it was Jeremy, right?
Jeremy Carroll. Yep.
He did that. He's like, man, I looked at that. There were lines in it. I thought, man, that stuff's shit. I mean, still to this day, when I do installs and there's the lines before it levels out, I'm like, damn, is that going to be okay? And
he literally said, he walked out, took a phone call because he's like, that's garbage. Not doing that anymore. It self-levels while it's on a vertical panel. Don't know. Grab
it. It really is amazing. I still, to this day, when I do the last car prep wipe, so you can kind of see,
what it's going to look like.
This is your last go-to before you install. Man, when I do that last wipe on there on any car, I still get a little grin, and I'm like, I cannot believe.
Like every day I walk in the shop in the morning time and I see 5 and 6 cars finished. I'm like, this is 4 or 5 years now I've been owning this company, and I'm like, dude, every day it blows my mind.
Yeah,
so it's great. I have people that we tell all around our community is like, look, if you want to see, what a car looks like before, come in the morning time. We'll have cars here. And then, or in mid morning, then come back the next morning. And we have customers that'll come in just for that, just to see it, because they don't believe it, right?
That's awesome.
And I'm like, look, I'm just as surprised as you, when I see it. And they look at me like I'm crazy, but I'm like, I don't, I still don't understand. Yes, I understand the scientific side of it now because I own the company, but I'm just like, it's like I don't understand it. It just looks too good.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had a
ruby red. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go for it.
I had for that same guy that owns those stores, he brought me a ruby red F250, ruby red metallic, and the older gentleman that dropped that truck off to me is also the one that picked it up when it was finished. So he parked out next to it, literally parked next to the truck. He came in, he's like, hey, I'm here to get this King Ranch back. I'm like, buddy, you parked next to it. And he looked out the window. He's like, that ain't that truck. Like, yeah, that is that truck. So we went out and looked at it, and it was another full detail Restore FX job. The inside was one of those, when I got in it to bring it in the shop, I didn't even want to touch it kind of thing.
Sticky.
So, yeah, just nasty. And so he looked, he's like, buddy, I drove this back from Arizona when we bought this truck. This is not the same truck. Like, I'm telling you, this is the same truck. He's like, well, I don't know what you do here, but I'm telling you, the whole truck's awesome. The exterior is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
I mean, we've every Restore FX center has a story to that.
Yeah.
Like, I had a buddy. We did one it was a red, blue. We do a lot of black cars, but red and blue, they're special. They're special.
Yep.
We did a red Lexus. It was a family friend. It was my wife's uncle. He's my dentist. He doesn't charge me for dental work, and so he had this car. And I'm like, I'll just do it for you. To be perfectly honest, so it's his wife's car. It's like a 07 red Lexus or something. And we did it. And my guy, I said, hey, I'll pick it up. I'll deliver. I'll do everything for you. Like, just keep filling cavities or whatever.
Yeah.
For free. So we did it. And my guy needed gas. We parked at the gas station, fill it up. And someone walks across the gas station and stops him. Is like, did you just paint this car and get it leave from the body shop? And came over. He's like, I've been doing paint correction detailing for like 15 years. I saw this car and I literally had to come ask you. And he's like, no, it's
That's
like
awesome.
this Restore FX stuff. It's like that. It's such a unique look. Last week we had Tony from Restore FX called and asked if they could have a guy come up from the Bay Area of California to my shop in Sacramento to look. They own a body shop and they want to open up potentially Restore FX stuff.
Wow.
And so I don't know how much I'm supposed to share. That's all I'll say, I guess. But and so they came to look, and I'm like, just stand around all day and watch my guy prep a car. They can come and just watch the end. I don't care. Like, it doesn't make that big of a difference. And so they came and looked, and they're just like, they're not believing the whole thing. They came at like 10 a.m. and waited till 3:30, 4 o'clock by the time we were applying on the cars. And they were like, this is crazy. This is like, I don't understand it. I'm like explaining the technology and like how it works and like it's a flux code and this, and they're like, what? They like paint cars, They were just blown away because they've been painting cars. They do a lot of high-end Teslas and all this stuff out in the Bay Area, and they're like, this is crazy, dude. This is crazy.
Yeah.
And I think for them, I was like trying to say for them, like, to position it, as a body shop, like the amount of times I go to a body shop and I see a freshly painted car, a front door and a fender, and that's it, and the rest of it is just like trash. I'm like, sell it on those, dude. Hey, an extra $1,000,
absolutely,
or whatever. You get the rest, But it's phenomenal stuff. So I'm curious. Did you charge for that demo?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you push the limits on the pricing? Because I'm curious to know.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what
Me either.
everybody's prices are. It's not like we have that Paul Corden price guide, right?
That's why I'm asking.
But I think that was $1,987.
It's pretty good.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
And that was interior detail too, though. Yeah, that's added in.
Yeah, I mean, it was dirty, but let's not get in the weeds there. It wasn't anything.
Someone would have done it for
crazy,
$100. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't wild,
Yeah.
That the work on that car was the exterior. That being said, I mean, retail Restore FX, I mean, I'd have to look exactly. I should have it memorized, but I want to say we're for a truck, we're like $1,875.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's way higher than us. Than me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome. And I was talking to this guy who's a super smart dude, this body shop owner, and he's basically wants to position it when people come in to get full repaints on their car. I'm going to say, you don't have to spend $14,000. You can pay me $8,000 and I'll do this. And I'm like, not bad idea.
Well,
I'm like, he was a smart dude. I mean, why not? What else can you compare it to?
Yeah, I remember hearing. In fact, this may have been in the conversation Paul and I had about this. Was his opinion was your other option is a paint job, so why not price it accordingly?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and that's why I think we love the three of us here, and everybody else has been on our podcast, and probably everybody listening. If you haven't figured it out yet, the reason we like paintless dent repair and paintless clear coat repair is because it's the same thing with PDR. I've made this case. I have Billy Wakowiak on here, and I felt like I was hammering him on if it costs $30,000 to repair a Porsche quarter panel properly, why can't I charge $30,000 to fix a 2-inch dent? Why can't I? I can is the answer, in my opinion. Right. If you go back and listen to that, I can. There's no reason why I can't. Just the fact that it takes me 2 hours. Okay, yep. I'm not saying I would morally or ethically. I don't think I'm worth $15,000 an hour in that particular situation. But can't I? And same thing with a paint job. Full paint job is properly, not Mako. 12, 14. I mean, done right. Yep. Are you tearing it down? Are you taking everything apart? Right? Why can't you charge 8 or 9 for Restore FX? You can. Yep. If you position it right, you can. And that's pretty crazy. That's pretty cool to think about.
Yep.
So as of now, I'm going to say 2,000 in my mind is the most expensive pure Restore FX that I've heard of personally. Yeah. So just like we're pushing PDR prices, we're gonna have to see if we can push that, because again, they're like, first of all, no one wants to repaint that. It's a restoration shop, and it's probably $30,000 repaint, to be honest. Right? I mean like you said, a full restoration. Right? I mean, yeah. Yep. No, Caliber's not taking that in to paint it. I mean, no. Yeah.
No. And the body shops around here, they're at least 4 months out. Like,
so they're like
wise. right?
Yeah, they're like
I'm talking
pass.
estimates.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I'll be honest, being the owner, the tech, the marketing guy, the sales guy, whatever, I'm still trying to finalize like sweet spot is on my prices. To be quite honest, I think the prices I've got for Restore FX and Clear FX, I think they're high. However, I think I'll get more of a market share by bringing them down a bit. But don't get me wrong, they're still going to be on the high end. But I'm just trying to find out where that spot in the market, where that fits.
Right, for sure. Yeah.
Do you struggle with like my question is, how do you do it all? You know what I mean? Like I could not even fathom trying to do sales, scheduling phone calls, restore effects, stints, everything. Do you ever get bogged down where you're just like can't deal with it? How are you doing that?
Yeah, I do have times where I am completely overwhelmed. I think luckily for me though, so I think if you look at our business, and like I said, we're coming up on a year. February will be a year. But if you look at the overall trajectory, it's upward, right? It's like the stock market, right? Over time, it's up. Now it's cyclical in that there are lows and highs within that. So, and that's what I was telling Riley at training. Like, yes, I'm doing this as a one-man band right now, but it's good.
But you're not going to dealers too, trying to get 2-3 cars a week either. That's
I did.
Okay, well, never mind.
Now I did, but here's why I put the brakes on. So that 2003 Silverado I mentioned earlier, I took that I meant to go to 6 dealers right here because right outside of our shop there's 6 dealerships. I meant to go to all 6 just to show them the before, and then I was going to take them the after, right? I went to 2 that I have really good relationships at, and they both are like, okay, it's an old Silverado that's scratched up, okay? I took it to them after, right? So I went to all 6 before, and then the after came. I thought, well, I'm going to go to all 6 again.
Yeah.
I went to the same 2 first, and both GMs both said, how many guys you got?
Yeah.
Well, so it scared me, to be quite honest. It scared me because both those stores, if either of them flip a switch, I want to say screwed, but I'm in a bad spot, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So it really is too, because like the death of a small business is you saying you can do something and then guys saying, cool, I'd like this car done, and you're like, yeah, I can do that February 1st. Right? I mean,
yeah.
If they gave you, let's say a small number, if they gave you 35 cars, that's not a big number for a place that's selling 2 different stores selling 100 cars a month. Like you're not done by the end of December, probably, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, Ryan, I don't know that I do it the right way, but because of the cyclical nature of where we're at right now as a company, I've got some time, but I'm not doing all those roles as great as I should be, to be quite honest. I'm not hitting sales like I should. Right now we're in basketball season at my kids' school, and both my kids play basketball. We're in hunting season, right? And as a business owner, I want to be able to take advantage of some of those times because that's what we do this for.
Sure.
At the same time, I can't put the business on the back burner for those things.
Right.
I still, to this day, have not advertised 1 penny at all. It's all been word of mouth. And we're by myself, we're decently into the 6 figures of revenue without any advertising, I still get people show up here every day and they're like, I had no idea you were even up here. I found out from Bob drinking coffee.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for the length of runway that I have, because when I really start to market and press that gas pedal, I think things are going to blow up. But I'm like I said earlier, I'm very big on process and trying to get SOPs figured out for various things, and not to the perfection point, but get them figured out to where I don't want the reputation that we have as a company to suffer on any level by just throwing people into a situation. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and quite honestly, with something like Restore FX, because it is easily duplicatable. Is that
Replicable, yeah.
There you go.
It's not duplicated in the sense that someone can copy the product. It's replicable
No,
in the sense that
absolutely not.
you can bring somebody in, and in 2 to 3 weeks they can be really good. Not like
Yes.
dent repair.
Yep. No,
Yeah.
not at all.
Yeah.
Right. So, I want to find nuance within that, right? And know that I don't want to have to rely, like early on, my thought was, well, I'm going to hire a couple guys to do Restore FX, like Corey and Ryan suggest, and it's going to run that way. But then I thought, I don't want to be beholden to an employee having me over a barrel with my own company. So I'm going to do it this way. Is it right or wrong? I don't know. But starting from zero, I'm in a good spot to try this out. And I'm gonna give it a go, and I'm gonna learn. That way, when the time comes, I can find the right person, plug them in, and they're not going to be able to bullshit me about what's going on. Or I'm going to be able to help them troubleshoot.
Right.
And give them pointers as to how we do things and why. Because ultimately, that's going to make the most efficient version of ProStar Automotive Solutions.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what's the greatest about owning a business, right? There's more than one way to skin a cat. So
100%.
the way you're doing it is not wrong. I'm like, I envy all those ways. I envy Corey, with how slow he developed his company, and then I just threw everything. And so that's why a lot of people get to learn from us, because we make all the mistakes for you. And if we can do anything to help that out, that's why we're here.
Yeah, for sure. There's a bunch of different ways, and none of them are wrong. And it's just you got to know what works for you. And that's the biggest thing. I mean, for me, I hired a family member who went with me to training, came back for 3 to 4 months. We did everything together, and now he's running with it. Different situation. Ryan hired 3, 4 guys, 5 guys right off the bat, and just tried to skyrocket the thing, but then realized it's hard to have 8, 7 cars a day every day for Restore FX. Potentially. So but nothing's wrong, nothing's wrong, but dude, that's fascinating. I'm going to share some of those videos for sure in the Master Recon podcast. The Master Recon Facebook page. Go check that out. You can put visual to the stuff we're talking about. Yeah, you're a cool dude. I'm glad you sent me that video, dude.
Likewise.
I hope you come to MTE, man.
I really hope you do. Yeah, if you do, text me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's very cool. Anything you want to, any more wisdom you want to give these guys on the way out the door?
I don't know. I don't know that's wisdom or, lessons learned. I don't know, but I don't have anything special. Just, if you're thinking about your next steps, whether a dent guy or otherwise, and you feel like you want an exit plan, in the future to get you out of, like in my case, off the hail trail and closer to your family every night, I will say, and I think you guys will agree, scaling a dent company in and of itself is incredibly hard. It takes for me, I would say it's almost impossible. I mean, it takes a very unique person as a tech, and it takes a very unique person as an owner, right? Because money makes people do weird shit.
Or lack of money.
Sure. Yeah. So, surviving as a dent business solely, that's a tough go. And something that I wouldn't want to do. So you gotta be strategic and find a way to do it with additional services. And in my opinion, and again, I think you guys will agree because you're doing it.
Yes.
These multi-service approach, at a high level, high customer service, high integrity. Like, you can't just go out and open a building with a bunch of shit in there and say, hey, this is what we're doing. You're not going to make it. You got to be strategic about it. But Restore FX should certainly at least be on your radar for sure.
Yeah.
Sweet.
100%, dude. Hey, is there anywhere that people can follow you online?
So, Facebook and Instagram, we're at ProStar Auto Co. On both of those, and I am my media guy, so I can't yell at myself too much. But I go through spurts where I'm very consistent.
Yeah, and then
I go
you
through spurts where I'm
Yes.
too busy and I don't do it.
100%.
But I'm excited for what's to come with that stuff, and learning more about it, growing, and I want to thinking about the Restore FX marketing plan that's out there, and trying to take advantage of some of that stuff here in this coming year. But just trying to go through all that, make a good list here in the end of this fourth quarter, and keep going. So,
Killer, dude. Thank you very much for coming on, sharing everything with us.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys for having me. It's been.
I'm glad we met. Hopefully, we can hang out in Florida in February, not January.
Yeah, no kidding. That'll be nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's very good to meet you guys finally, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Yeah. Until the next one. See you guys.
See ya.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Masters of Recon podcast. If you're getting value from this podcast, then please subscribe to the show and give us a review so others can find our show as well. And if you haven't joined the discussion yet, then go find us over at Masters of Recon Facebook group to join the weekly discussion. See you all next time.